Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abassi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And I'm going to try to talk quieter today because I keep recording too late and I don't want to wake anybody up in the house. You longtime listeners know that I did have one episode where I was like almost whispering. And I actually got a bunch of positive feedback from that one. Apparently, that's a thing now when you like record these podcasts or videos where you have the microphone like all up on your mouth and stuff. I don't know. I don't know. It's a thing. I don't know what it's called. Um, Okay. So today I'm going to have a religious episode. That's what I'm doing. So today I want to talk about the role of faith and how that can impact recovery, how we can leverage it in recovery. And I want to talk about my experience with faith and my ongoing self education and exploration to strengthen my sobriety, my emotional well being. And now I'm starting to pull this in and see how I may be able to apply this better to my stroke recovery. I just recognized recently that I did a lot of work to get to the point where I am with faith in my sobriety. And I thought, when I had my stroke and I've been going on this stroke journey and I've been in denial and I've come down this, home stretch here for the past 10 months where I left my job and that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, I didn't really put any work in to speak of to increase my faith at all um, with stroke recovery. I have been doing the same things now that I have been doing in my sobriety, but I thought maybe I need to dig in a little more and increase my faith. Like it's a heavier load, so I feel like I need more faith to carry it. That's what I'm thinking of. So, whether you're navigating the challenges of alcoholism, whether you are newly sober, you've been sober for years, you've had a stroke, you're dealing with vestibular disorders or any kind of chronic pain, faith can be a cornerstone for healing. And that's really physically and emotionally is the angle I'm coming from. So I will discuss how I plan on taking action on faith. I know that in sobriety, taking the action, doing the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous allowed me to, we call it restore sanity. And honestly, I was insane. I didn't really like the word insanity in the beginning. When I first got sober, I was like, I'm not crazy. But I was. The more over the years that I've been reflecting back on what I was thinking and my behavior, it made no sense. I was not reasonable. I was not living in this world with the rest of you. I was in my own little world that I had built on my own, and it was what I felt like it was sheltering me from the rest of the world, but all it was doing was creating additional stress. So I want to talk about the how I was able to embrace this idea of a higher power. I've talked about it a lot in past episodes, so I'm not going to talk too much. I don't want to be too repetitive, but I do want to set up this, give you like the context of faith in my recovery. So, this is coming from someone who is not well educated. I wouldn't classify myself as educated much at all in the area of religion and faith. For historical context, sorry, I keep moving the camera. For historical context, my mom took me and my siblings to church on Sunday when I was a kid. And I remember going. I don't remember much of it, but I remember it was something that we did all the time. And I remember wanting to go to Dairy Queen. Afterwards, there was a Dairy Queen. Anyway, and I remember I have one memory of being in a sermon, like in the whole congregation room, and not liking the feeling of having to sit there. Like it was a cold, hard pew that I had to sit on. And I remember thinking I had to sit on this for a really long time and be quiet. But the alternative was that I had to go into a classroom like Sunday school, and I didn't want to do that either. So either way, I wasn't terribly happy, because I didn't want to be away from my mom. But I also didn't want to sit there and be bored and listen to this guy speaking. It to me, like it was like a foreign language. Like I didn't understand what he was saying. So I remember wanting, though, I'm really grateful that I had an introduction to church, no matter what that looked like for me, because it was an introduction to the idea of, do you want to have faith? Do you want to believe in God? There's this God thing, and here are a couple stories about him, and you get to choose how you feel about it. I mean, that was my interpretation of what was happening during this time in my life. So I remember wanting to believe in God, but not understanding really how to do it. What was I supposed to do? And that is the feeling that really has outlasted any other throughout my life. Wanting to have something, wanting to have a religion, wanting to have this entity that is always with me, takes care of me, but not knowing how to do it, not knowing if I'm already doing it or what it's supposed to feel like or anything like that. It wasn't something that we really talked about too much that I recall in my family. So what I did, though, have outside of Sunday going to church, I also had a prayer over my bed, and it was cross stitched. And I think it was cross stitched by my grandmother, if I'm not mistaken. If it wasn't, my mom's mom. If it wasn't, then it was cross stitched by my aunt, I think. So it was the classic bedtime prayer for kids. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. So it was a really colorful, super cute little cross stitch thing. And it was my effort of, it was my effort, it was my way, I guess, of starting to have a relationship with God. That was the only thing I knew how to do because it was right above my bed. So I read it every night before I went to bed. And that was the beginning of my relationship. Even though the prayer was a little scary to me, I remember thinking, I might not wake up. Like, am I really not going to wake up? What happens if I don't wake up? Like kind of thing. But that little prayer told me that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happens. I am being taken care of. I am protected. I feel safe. And that was really nice. Now, something that just crossed my mind that's kind of humorous to me. That did not translate into anything other than bedtime. That didn't translate over the years for me. So later on, I started to be very scared at night. I was always scared. I was scared of ghosts. I was scared of bad people coming in our house. Um, Always like it's I remember being scared of these things until we moved when I was in ninth grade, and I had a room in the basement of our house that had no windows, and it was like pitch dark in there. And I really loved that room, so I had to get over it. If I was going to stay in that room, I had to get over my fear. So in ninth grade, that's when I finally stopped being scared for the most part, stopped being scared and being okay. So I may not have built this permanent relationship or understanding of where that protection starts and where it stops. Like it's what I know now is that it doesn't stop. There is no boundary to it. So that's unfortunate, but that's what it is. That's what I experienced. So for as of now, like what I've learned in sobriety is all of these introductions through the big book of AA and the steps. And when I recently listened to the movie called, I think it was called When Love Isn't Enough, and it's the story of Lois Wilson, Bill Wilson's wife, who was she was the founder of Al Anon, and he's the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous. And what I know now after listening to that movie um, is that they were, Lois particularly, now I don't know if it's Louise or Lois. I think I did that the last time I was talking about this. Anyway, that she had a very strong faith. And it sounds like a lot of this, I mean, clearly a lot of this was built into Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm glad that it was. I'm glad that this is the path that I have taken for my sobriety, because it has encouraged me to continue going down this road of building a relationship with my own concept of my higher power. So, one of the things that we learn in AA is the serenity prayer. So that introduced me to, in parallel with getting to know who my higher power was, what that looks like for me. Do I call my higher power God? Is it God and a lot of other different things? And that's what I had chosen for my higher power, was that it is a combination of God and people who have passed in my life, and so much more outside of myself that I cannot control. Um, and that's what I learn also in the serenity prayer, that I need to accept the things that I cannot change and have the courage to change the things I can. And this constant reminder of, I feel like I have a piece of my hair on me, By the way, I have a heating pad on my shoulder. That's what this is. It feels good. My neck and my back are killing me. Um, so it's like I was continuing to be introduced to this concept of there's so much in the world that I can't control. And who can control it? God. That's what my introduction is that I am not the director of the play. I am just one playing a role in the grand scheme of things. I am just one tiny little speck. And I've had lots of conversations with my dad about that idea of the universe and how if we really think about the grandness of the universe and our tiny little role in it, um, that is just another angle of it, I think, to look at it from the universe and energy perspective. So, but I want to stay focused on faith in this episode. Um, so in AA, faith is a central theme. And there's a chapter called We Agnostics. So there's answers for people who do not believe in God, or they find a different conception of a higher power, whether it be, I met somebody early on in sobriety who believed that the sun was her higher power. And that was really because of the devastating childhood that she had. And she did not believe that there is a God that would have allowed her to um, live in that way, that he was not looking out for her. So, to each their own, I can understand how that can be challenging for many people, depending on what their history is with um, devastation and bad things happening. So, what I've needed out of my faith is a feeling that I'm not alone. And I've talked a little bit about my abandonment issues. And I think some of my family listens to this, some of them don't, but I don't know how much or if I've ever talked about abandonment issues, but it's a topic that I talk frequently with any therapist or psychiatrist over the years. I've talked about it. It's something that is real to me, and it's something that has given rise to this need of not being alone. Um, and not to go too far into that abandonment stuff, but the day that I realized finally when I was in San Francisco, yeah, when I was in San Francisco, that day, that evening, that I recognized that I was not alone, that if I drank, my higher power would know about it, was the day that I believed, period. I should just end there. It was the day that I believed and that I could no longer hide anything. It led me to beginning to be more honest, to be more kind, to be courageous. It it led to a lot for me. It was really a turning point in my sobriety. It is the reason I did not drink that day, that evening. Um, and I believe that it is the reason that I haven't drank since that day, because I was thinking about it that day. And ever since that day, I don't even consider it. I may have had uh, thoughts cross my mind about alcohol or muscle relaxers. I told you that 10 months ago, I had a lot of fear that I was slipping into a mindset that I might be on a slippery slope and I might think about getting some alcohol or some sort of mind-altering drug. Um, but I haven't considered doing that. And I really believe it was that day. That's funny because I hadn't even thought about this until right this minute. I hear all the time in people's shares, they talk about, I think it's in the big book somewhere, about many people, like some people learn quickly, sometimes slowly, and they talk about their faith building, um, some of it slowly, some of it like a burning bush moment. And I was just thinking, I wonder if that was my burning bush moment. Because it was really just absolutely a pivotal moment. Like that was when everything changed for me. Interesting. Anyway, um, I heard in my morning meeting today about this, that faith gives me the wisdom to know the difference between what I can control and what I can't, which is what I started this section talking about. And that just it helps me be able to let things go, to not try so hard to change things that are just not under my control. So if I shift gears a little bit, and I wanted to talk about, how does faith help in accepting our current state in stroke recovery? Like, how do I start to take action based on faith in stroke recovery? So I know how faith helps my sobriety. I'm sure that faith, because I have been so able to draw parallels between my sobriety and my stroke recovery, I'm sure faith can be a powerful tool in stroke recovery, serving both as a source of comfort and guidance for doing the next right thing. I put together a bit of my perspective on how faith can help in accepting one's current state in recovery and taking action. So, first is providing acceptance and peace. So, faith often brings a sense of acceptance. And if I'm sticking with my psychiatrist's insights on acceptance, I am going to be acknowledging that I am allowing myself to maintain the memories of the grief, anger, and sadness for having had my stroke, having had that change my brain permanently, change my body as a whole, and having to change the way I do things, limiting what I can do, walking away from my job. But I'm focusing on, if I'm accepting, I'm focusing on moving forward with that memory of that grief, anger, and sadness, still surfacing joy in my current state despite those memories. So faith fosters an understanding that there's a greater plan or purpose, even in hardship. And this belief can help stroke survivors come to terms with the changes in our lives and reduce feelings of anger or denial. And I want to be careful when I say that, reducing anger or denial, because I don't, if I could bottle what is happening for me, I would bottle it and sell it. Like, I don't know what is decreasing my feelings of anger and denial. and what is increasing my acceptance? Is it time? Is it practicing my AA? Is it going to a psychiatrist? There's so many things, but one thing that I feel is lacking in my recovery and my stroke recovery is the presence of my faith playing a role in that acceptance. I'm not quite sure that I feel a link between my serenity to accept the things that I can't change about what has happened, and the link between that and the energy that I'm putting into faith. So that's why I feel like I need to work a little harder on faith. So every night I go to bed and I get on my knees and I say my prayer, and I'm expressing my gratitude for my recovery, my sobriety, not smoking, and my willingness to recover. And then I say that God's will be done, not mine. And I'm mostly, when I say that, I'm really picturing myself like slapping my hands together and being like, that's it. I've done all I can. I've played my part in the play today. My role is complete. Over to you, God. And I go to bed. Like, that's it. I've done everything I can today. But I would like to be able to do that throughout the day. I do have a bit of a habit that has started where I am able to acknowledge when something great happens, and I stop and I look up and I smile, because that's my acknowledgement that, okay, you're looking out for me. I saw what you just did. So I do that throughout the day. And I have to, again, I have to do this. I have to incorporate this into my recovery, or I cannot find purpose. I cannot find the greater picture. I can't figure out my role. It's very lonely if I don't have that. It's very lonely up in here. So that's really where this faith has to be incorporated in my life. It has to. So faith inspires hope and motivation for me. Believing in a higher power, and it's more than just God for me, but I'm trying to focus just on that. Gives me belief in a larger purpose. And this can motivate to persevere on difficult days in recovery. So this idea of a greater end to the role that I'm playing provides just enough of a nudge for me to strive for improvement. And it can be a flicker of light when I'm feeling dark, and when progress seems slow or my future abilities are uncertain. It is just enough. It's like when people have that little keepsake that they put in their pocket to just rub and remind themselves of something. That's what faith is for me. It's just that little something that's in my pocket that I can reach in and be like, okay, it's still there. And that's enough for me. And I'm really happy that I feel not embarrassed to talk about this today. You guys know, you lifetime listeners know that I was not talking about this 10 months ago. I was not. I was embarrassed to talk about it. So I'm making progress. So that's good. So another way that that I think that faith can be pulled in more deeply in my recovery is through community and getting involved with a support network. So I'm constantly talking about support networks. What I haven't talked about is church. What I haven't talked about is having a faith network. So I have just dipped my toe slightly into a faith network. And what I did was I reached out to actually a friend of a friend reached out to my sister and told her about something called Comfort for Dark Days. And this is a 7-part Bible study online that is given by a young woman who has chronic pain. And so she takes Bible verses and translates them. I'm getting hot. I have to turn off my heating pad. Sorry. Live action right here. Live action. So she takes Bible verses and translate them into how can we apply this to dealing with chronic pain or chronic illness. So that was my first introduction. And we had 3 live, online meetings, and there was a good handful of people there, and they were very welcoming to me. I made it very clear that I am all new to the world of Bible study. And they were so nice and welcoming and explained things to me that I'm like, I haven't heard that before. So I need a lot of patience with people who I'm going to get involved in because I really am totally naive in this whole thing. So whether it is congregation, a small faith-based group, or a broader community of people offering to prayer, a faith network can be practical support resource. And so I'm looking into this. I'm looking into this and dipping and dabbling in a little bit more that I can do and grow my network a little bit. So the woman that does the Comfort for Dark Days, we are in contact with each other now. So we send messages back and forth, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy that I have somebody that's willing to do that with me. So many faith traditions also emphasize prayer and meditation, which is for me a critical part of my sobriety. And I have found it to be really, really helpful, at least the meditation part, in reducing stress and resting for my stroke recovery. So this taking time to meditate has also adds a little bit of fulfilling that desire to live a life full of purpose. And a lot of times they emphasize, if you listen to a guided meditation, which I listen to the Calm app a lot, and they give just spiritual guidance and guidance on being kind to others, kinder to yourself, and self-care, self-love, and all that good stuff. So this can translate into a more focused and, most importantly, disciplined approach to recovery. So I jotted down, and I'm just going to go through these briefly because I'm having really, really heavy symptoms right now. So I'm going to just glide through these, and then I'm going to end the episode. So these are just how I can take action based on faith. Translating faith into action during stroke recovery. So these are how I'm considering doing that. So setting some meaningful goals. So right now I'm reading what is called the Recovery Bible, and I got it on Amazon, and it has a journal with it and a workbook. And I have a hard time. I can only really read a page in a day. And it's one of those, I think I explained it like yesterday or the day before. It's got like those tissue paper pages and it's this thick. So it's going to take a lifetime for me to read it, but I have a lifetime. So that's one thing I'm doing. I'm looking for an online church. My friend that I was just talking about, she has given me information about her church and some other churches. And I have some other friends who go to different churches. So I've been in conversations with how I might be able to attend virtually. And then incorporating faith into daily routines. And I mentioned earlier just doing a little more prayer and expressing gratitude throughout the day. I seem to only do that when something great happens or when something terrible happens. What I'd like to do is acknowledge little small things throughout the day or just pray, like just be like, hey, I know you're there. Just checking in, you know what I mean? So, and then using faith as a source of strength and therapy. I was thinking the way that I did that 5K, lifetime listeners, I've told you about my 5K experience and that similarity to living one day at a time while also in parallel taking literally one step at a time when I was training for my 5K and telling myself, you're okay right now. You're okay right now. Like with every step, you're okay right now. Don't stop. You're okay right now. So doing this in vestibular therapy, I have been starting to incorporate this slightly. I have to be really cognizant of where my symptoms are, which, as you know, they're not good right now. So I'm going to keep breezing through this. So engaging with a faith community, I have to get one before I can engage with them. But it would be nice to be able to meet up with people for coffee or something like that, just to get to know people and build some friendships. And then finally reflecting. And I think through my daily meditation, I think through using my recovery Bible and then also the journal. I'm hoping that that will encourage me to, journal my thoughts about faith a little more. So by embedding my faith in my stroke recovery, I think it's going to be more than me just kneeling before I go to bed. It's going to turn into, with work, a dynamic part of my healing process. It's going to be something that is going to be as strong as my sobriety. I'm sure of that because I did not gain my relationship with my higher power to support my sobriety without doing years of work to get here. So I've decided that I want to put the same amount of work into building this area of my recovery, this faith area of my recovery. I may not know all the right words for uh, churchgoers and Bible readers and all this stuff, but I can certainly create my own faith somewhere where I'm comfortable. I don't have to shout it from the rooftops. I don't have to talk about it with anybody. But I think it's something that's important to bring up with you all, with people in recovery, because I think it can be absolutely the difference between having the desire to keep going and not having that desire to get better. And that is, that's the most important thing. That's the reason why I'm here, why I'm doing this, is because I want to help provide reason for people to say, yes, I want to get better. I want to do whatever I can to get better, um, and be the best version of myself. So faith not only helps in accepting our current state, but also actively shapes the direction of our lives. And in AA, we say faith without works is dead. And apparently that is from the Bible. So look at me. I am an overachiever already. So anyway, thank you so much for listening. Thanks for allowing me to be quiet today, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.